Welcome to LCCAP Legacy, Decades of Dedication, the podcast that celebrates the incredible individuals who have shaped the heart and soul of the Lawrence County Community Action Partnership.
Each episode, we'll dive deep into the stories of those who have devoted their careers to making a difference, not just in our organization, but in the lives of the people we serve every day.
We'll uncover their journeys, explore the moments that inspired them, and highlight the lasting impact of their commitment to LCCAP's mission.
So whether you're here to learn, be inspired, or simply celebrate the amazing people who make LCCAP what it is, thank you for joining us.
This is LCCAP Legacy, Decades of Dedication.
Let's get started with today's guest.
Welcome back. You are now listening to LCCAP Legacy, Decades of Dedication. We have made it to the 5th episode. And in the studio today with me, I have my co-host, Kim.
Good morning.
And unfortunately, Amber's not here with us today. We're sending love and prayers to her family. Unfortunately, her grandpa passed away over the weekend, so she will not be in the studio with us, so you will not hear her voice. But we are sending love and prayers to her family. Now, with that being said, we do have a special guest with us here in the studio today, and that special guest is Nancy Welker. Nancy serves as the Early Childhood Education Director, and she has been with the organization for the last 29 and a half years, almost 30.
Happy to be here.
Not to push it too soon, almost 30 years. All right. Well, obviously, almost 3 decades. That's a long time. So take us to the beginning. How did it all start?
In 1995, I was looking for an opportunity to move to Western Pennsylvania. My experience had been in South Central Pennsylvania. I'm from Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. I was a vocational counselor at that time, working for JTPA in Franklin County. That's the Job Training Partnership Act. And I had been, previous to that, a substitute teacher. I have an education degree. My work there in Franklin County kind of morphed. I had taken a position one summer as a crew leader with JTPA. They were looking for certified teachers to work with at-risk youth in the summertime, to lead a crew of at-risk teenagers. They were building sheds, cleaning gardens, doing the hard labor work. But then 3 hours a day out of their day was then remediation in terms of math and literacy skills. So that's why they were looking for certified teachers for that job. And I did that and loved my experience there. My focus has always been on at-risk populations. Chose to do my student teaching at Farrell just because I felt like, I could be successful anywhere, but why not take the most challenging opportunity? And so working with those youth that summer was just amazing, very fulfilling. Here then there was an opportunity to begin a position as a vocational counselor with those kids on my caseload. So walked into that job, then was also given a caseload of adult workers where we worked on workplace readiness, job training skills, doing all of those sorts of things. So whenever I was looking for an opportunity in Western Pennsylvania, I was getting married, and there was a position open for a case manager for Lawrence County Social Services. And I was like, case manager, I'm pretty aware of how to do that job. That would be a good stepping stone. Little did I know that community action agencies were being called right at that very time to begin something called the Supported Work Program. This was back whenever the AFDC program, Aid for Families of Dependent Children, was moving into the TANF program, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. And community action agencies across Pennsylvania were being called to build this program to really help adults transition from assistance into the workplace. So it kind of was serendipitous, that I came in just thinking I'll take a case management position. But then here, my experiences back in Franklin County really lent themselves well to being able to start that program and, kick it off the ground and get it running. So that's kind of a long story, but that's how I ended up here.
Nice.
It's an amazing story. Yeah, I always enjoy hearing what everybody's adventures were prior to coming here to Lawrence County Community Action Partnership.
Adventure is a good word for it.
Yes,
That's
it
for
sure
sure.
is. So over the last 29 and a half years, what different positions have you held here at Lawrence County Community Action Partnership?
So I did start as a case manager. We hadn't begun the supported work program at that time. That didn't happen until 1996. Then, whenever AFDC was dismantled, and we began the supported work program. But so as a case manager, I went into homes and did assessments for the Homemaker Tour program, for instance. Worked very closely with the housing department. That was really kind of the focus back then, just doing general case management for all families, for income eligibility for all of our different programs. I say all of our different programs, but there really weren't many programs back then.
What has been the most rewarding part of your work that you've done with LCAP?
Rewarding, I think, is that every day to stop and think about the difference that we're making in children's lives, in families' lives, in individuals' lives, and really in the lives, too, of our coworkers. You know, we have an opportunity to impact in so many different ways. Regardless of the programming that you're operating, you just know, and regardless of how bad your day has been, it's always helpful to take a minute and just realize, you know, we always say we spend 80% of our time focusing on 20% of the issues, but really, if you rethink that calculation, it means that 80% of the stuff is going really well and that it doesn't need your time. And those are the folks that 80% of the people that everything is going smoothly and we're having success with.
Nancy, how important is agency culture to you, and what measures do you take to maintain your desired culture?
I think about culture in terms of people's willingness to show up every day and to show up with the right temperament, with the right confidence, feeling equipped to do their job. I would say that the culture here is something that has been really important to me, and that I have made sure that I have communicated as effectively and clearly as I can with all of my the folks that I supervise, is that we are first and foremost a family-friendly organization. The number of stories that I could tell you about how LCAP has supported me personally through challenges that I have had. I lost both of my parents since I have worked here. I've lost 2 grandparents. I had 2 children. I got married. All of these things, these major life-changing events. And LCAP has been by my side throughout all of those. It's been a long journey with lots of ups and downs. And knowing that my employer is always there to support me, I think has made such a difference. And I try to just let everybody know what a benefit that is, and that, you know, the whole equipping you to be able to do your job. Certainly it's in terms of support for technology and training and understanding what your job is, but it's also recognizing that your employer is there to support you regardless of what you're going through. I think that's huge.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. And you did mention, you know, when you first started here as a case manager, you had no idea that you would be in the position that you are in now. Mm-hmm. So if you had to look back on your career, what is one piece of advice you would have gave to your younger self starting off in this career?
What comes to my mind in terms of advice, I must have given it to myself, because I think that the most important thing was just to take a leap. You know, I had no idea what I was walking into. And, you know, I use the word serendipitous, but I think it was a God thing that I was placed there for a reason, and just at the right time. And, you know, I started off with a focus on employment readiness and that sort of thing. And then my children were born, and we then had the opportunity to dive into the Head Start world. And I had a vested interest then at that point. And, you know, certainly having a vested interest in your work really it helps to put everything into perspective. I was raising 2 young children at that time, and to really be able to understand the needs for quality early learning made a huge impact on us being able to write a successful grant and become the grantee here in Lawrence County.
So just as a segue into how Head Start did develop here at LCCAP, you were one of the people who helped influence that program coming into fruition for the organization. So looking back from where it started to where it is now, how do you reminisce over that time and all the efforts that you put in along with everyone here at LCCAP to get the program up and running?
So, back before Head Start became a thing, I used to describe my job as funding finder and funding keeper. Our responsibilities were always to take a look at what are the needs in Lawrence County, where are the holes, where are the gaps, what can we do, where can we go to find the funding to be able to meet the needs of folks in our communities. And so you write a grant, you pour all of your heart and soul into it, and then you go back to doing your regular job. The grant's been submitted, and then lo and behold, 3 months later, 6 months later, you're not awarded, and that's okay. You go back to doing the work that you were doing, or holy cow, we do a little dance. We open a letter that says that you've been funded, and then it's, oh wait, what did we say we were going to do again? How many staff do we need to hire? How much space do we need? How much time do we have to get this grant off the ground? So, there was a whole team of us that we were used to operating that way. And whenever the Head Start opportunity came around, I won't ever forget it. Tom called me into his office and said, hey, by the way, we're going to apply for Head Start. And I said, okay. And he said, and you're going to write it. And I said, okay. But it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. I developed a huge network of folks all across definitely Pennsylvania, but more so across the United States, really, and across certainly our region, because our job was to identify what are the options with Head Start. We had to completely develop a program from the ground up. We couldn't assume that the way that Head Start had operated previously was the way that it should continue to be operated. And it was fun to be able to talk with the principals and the superintendents and the directors of agencies to talk about what do they know about the needs of children and families in our community, and built that program completely based on what we identified the needs were. That's the whole goal. You have a community needs assessment, and that's what drives all of your decision making. So, and I could go on and on about that process and the grant that was submitted. And back then, nothing's electronic. We were in the middle of the night. We had a deadline that it needed to be submitted, and we're running around using multiple copiers. And at that point, we had like our first color copier, and that was exciting. But you had to submit. I mean, the grant was probably 5 inches big, and we had to submit 9 copies of that to the federal government. It was crazy because we were sending to the copier and trying to collate in the middle of the night. Tom was running around. Debbie Hennon was running around. There was definitely a group effort, and was really exciting. Then again, so we put that to bed. We all kind of took a breather, went on vacation, and then went back to doing our real jobs. And then we got a call from the regional office that they wanted us to come and negotiate that contract with them. And so we go to Philadelphia, and there are all the 9 copies of this grant sitting out on the table with sticky notes on them. So it was really great because you could see that they had read the grant, that they understood. And the opportunity was actually, what they wanted to discuss with us was, yes, we're going to award you as long as you're willing to do these other things. They actually wanted to give us additional money to be able to address some of the other needs that they recognized in our grant that we were being faced with. So grant was awarded, and the letter, I think, was May of 2002. And at that point, it was to serve 333 children And the grant was $2.2 million that really, I think it translates into about $6,000 per child. So to answer your question, I mean, it's taken me a long time to get there, but the difference is that now in 2025, we're serving, 500, and I think the number is 546 kids, and our budget is over $11 million. So, that's not just Head Start Federal, that's all of the early learning sources that come in, and multiple different programs that were funded to serve children 0 to 6 weeks of age up to kindergarten.
Nancy, something surprising that you have learned about yourself over the years. Is there anything that comes to mind that you would like to share?
I feel like I'm surprised by myself every day. Surprised in a good way or surprised by myself in a bad way. I think persistence is probably the best. You wake up in the morning and my mind says, okay, what do I have going on today? And to just keep putting both feet forward and know that the number of crazy situations we have dealt with, over the years, the things that we've had to tackle, we've always gotten through them. Anything that seems like it's unsurmountable, that it's too difficult to handle, you do surprise yourself because you are able to pull through and able to make decisions and able to tackle the challenges that come your way.
And, there have been so many challenges with just education, period, within the years, prior to the pandemic and different things like that. And so many things have been changing. So how do you basically plan for the future? And why do you think it's important for early education to be a thing in a child's life?
My goodness. I could talk for hours on this subject, Janae. And one of the things that I was responsible for, we actually had funding at one point it was called the Community Engagement Grant, and then it turned into the Learn Grant. But it was what allowed us to form a Lawrence County Early Learning Task Force that really doesn't exist any longer in the same manner because we had actual funding to reach goals and objectives related to that funding. But one of our biggest responsibilities was to really raise awareness with legislators, with school boards, with business leaders, and obviously also with families about the importance of early learning. We know that 90% of a child's brain is developed before the age of 5. It's amazing. We also know the impact of poverty on the brain. We understand now the impact of trauma on the brain. We have done really great work in terms of raising awareness. Some of my favorite things that I would do whenever we had this funding was to meet with school boards and to get them to understand, thank you for allowing us to have a classroom in your district. Do you realize what this is doing to prepare your children for kindergarten? We love that you are being a stakeholder in that programming and supporting children and families that way. The most needy children and families in your districts, for instance, that we could say to the school board leaders, to talk to the legislators about that importance. But it's also really about helping the families understand that take that leap, make that commitment for your children, make early learning a priority. And whenever we say early learning, it's not necessarily within a classroom. Parents are a child's first and best teacher. And what has happened over the years, you mentioned what has happened since COVID. But I think that it has just over the years, we know that everybody walks around with a phone in their hand. Parents parent with phones, with iPads, that they're so quick to fill up space, fill up time with handing over a device to a child. And families are so focused on looking at their phone so that they're not missing something. What they're really missing is their time with their child. I think back to I had the luxury of raising my children before technology became so pervasive. And I think about the conversations with my kids, the games that we would play, the back and forth, the laughter, and I see families today that are missing out because they're not taking the time to see everything as a learning opportunity. We really try and focus very hard on how can we make that an opportunity for families regularly within our programming.
And just to piggyback off of that, how do you think LCAP and LCAP early learning help support the families and children beyond the classroom?
Well, so first we are laying that foundation for after they leave us. But while they're with us, it's our responsibility to bring the family along so that the family is always understanding what are the goals and objectives that we're attempting to accomplish with the children in the classroom, and how can they extend the learning that's happening in the classroom? How can they extend that in the home environment, in the community environment, to really equip the family to understand that these are the sorts of things that if we encourage children to play, that we're actually forming those executive function skills so that we're equipping those children to be more successful later in life.
And I would like to add that it's nice that early learning hosts so many different activities with families that allow them to come into the classroom or just maybe outside of the classroom, but do classroom materials that kind of work hands-on with the students so that they are getting that real world experience as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fact that families feel more equipped outside of the classroom to support the child, but they also feel welcome in the classroom as well. Kim, I know that you can speak firsthand about that for a child to be able to see the relationship that has developed between their teacher and their family is priceless. That level of trust and compassion that they're able to witness there makes a huge difference, having the family on board with what is happening in the classroom.
Oh, yes, Nancy, I can't agree more. Just yesterday, my daughter Ella, she's at our Frumo location. We went down to our Building 7, our agricultural lab, with Miss Kristen Green, and we had the best time. We also had a parent that came in, too, to volunteer his time. So it was so nice to be able to read a book with the kids, with Mrs. Green, to have that parent there alongside, not only with his child, but he was interacting with all the kids. So it was really, really amazing. Yeah. I can't thank our teachers enough, actually. Ms. Relic, Miss Lansdowne, Miss Hammond, they've all been there for my daughter and all their students. So
Kim is definitely our biggest cheerleader. We love that.
Well, I love LCAP. So yeah, everything we do is amazing. Making a difference one day at a time, I always say, in the lives of our community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, legacy is one of the big words for this podcast. So what are you hoping that your legacy is going to be when you leave LCAP?
I think I would say I hope that people remember me as a kind, fun person. I know that I like to involve myself. I like to be present. I like to ask a lot of questions. And I know that can be scary. A lot of times people get nervous whenever I'm asking questions. And meanwhile, I'm asking questions because I really value their input. I really want to understand their perspective. Because we are all a team, as we talked about team, I want to hear from people. I want to know what they're experiencing. And the only way that I can truly understand is to ask questions. But this is a great opportunity for me to say, whenever I ask questions, it's not because I'm questioning you. It's because I want to know. I want to learn. You are a part of the solution. You're a part of our team, and that's the way that I can really know how to best meet your needs. Is to ask questions. So, yeah, I like to have fun, and I like to I like to really look for the good in things. I think that those would be the things that I would want people to remember about me.
Awesome. All right. Well, you survived all of the personal questions. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our quick fire round. That's going to be a series of questions that we're going to ask you, and you're going to just respond with the first thing that comes to your mind. Typically, Kim and Amber do it, but I'm going to sit in for Amber. So Kim and I are going to go back and forth and ask you a few questions. You want to start it off, Kim?
I sure will.
All righty.
Nancy, what do you like to do in your spare time after work, if you have any?
Well, I do love to cook, which is a good thing. I love to make soup. Don't always have as much time as I would like for that. So, especially on the weekends, love to be able to. But this is kind of crazy. I love to run, and I do CrossFit, and I love to ski. Haven't skied much. Haven't actually gone yet this year, which is really sad. But yeah, I like to stay active, and I've got a dog. I've got a golden retriever that just turned 7, and he's my best reason for getting out of bed first thing every morning. We go on long walks together.
Oh, that's cute.
That is so nice. What's your dog's name?
His name is Blue.
Blue.
I love that. We love dogs.
We are dog lovers here too.
All right. So Nancy, what is your favorite children's book of all time?
You know, that is so hard because I have so many children's books. I'd loved to spend time buying books with my kids, going into Barnes and Noble and letting them pick out books. And I think that this is a really hard question because there's so many. So I love The Pokey Little Puppy, and I have so many memories of my dad reading that book to me. Roly poly pell mell tumble bumble till you get to the bottom of the hill and then you stop short. I can picture him to this day reading that book to me. So that was a quick off the cuff. I could list another 25, but of favorites if I had more time. But that's what I'll go with.
Okay, Nancy, who has been your most important mentor?
My most important mentor. So this is kind of maybe an unusual response, but my grandmother on my dad's side was just the happiest, kindest, most loving soul I have ever met in my life. And she was fun and she was silly, and she would say things like, you're familiar with the Life's Little Instruction calendars. So it became a thing. I think probably the first year that those were ever out, I bought her one. Well, what she would do is that she would tear off the Life's Little Instruction for each day, and she would set them aside, and she would write little notes on them, and she would clip them so that they weren't as heavy coming back in the mail to me. And she would send me back her commentary and then also write a letter to me. We developed this most amazing relationship over the Life's Little Instruction calendars. And, she would say, for instance, I pray for each of you every night whenever I'm going to sleep. I would start with, and she would say, I start with your mother, and then I go to your father, and then I go to Mary, and then and sometimes, Nancy, I will admit that sometimes I fall asleep and I don't get to you, but I remember to pick up right up where I left off the next morning. So she has to be my my answer, just because her outlook on life was happy and joyful, but so purposeful, and it makes me smile thinking about that.
She sounds like an amazing woman. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you could have dinner with any educator, past or present, who would it be?
I think that my response would be Diane Trister Dodge. She is the creator of the creative curriculum. We use the creative curriculum in all of our classrooms, and I would love to pick her brain about how times have changed since she became the author of that curriculum, and today, and what advice she might give to educators regarding the epidemic that we have encountered with the needs that children have today.
All righty, so that's going to go ahead and wrap up our quick fire round. You made it through. Good job.
Yay. Amazing time with you, Nancy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Happy to be here with you guys.
So before you leave, I know a lot of people may want to know, since you are the director of early education, what's to come in the future? Are there any big plans, or what's going on over there in that world?
Well, part of operating grants is to get through monitorings. So we've got quite a few monitoring. We will be monitored over the next few months, as typical. We've got the state who will be in and observing, spending time in classrooms, and the federal government will also. We've got another review probably this spring, and potential class reviews. But we are always looking for, throughout that process, we're developing skill among our staff. And, our focus is always on the future, knowing that, it's kind of funny. Whenever you handle a situation, then you think about, okay, who learned from that? And what did we learn from that? We have an amazing team of managers that are new, that are eager, that are committed. And I'm really proud of them. And I think that every day, regardless of the challenges that we are encountering, we take the opportunity to be able to equip them to be able to be our leaders of the future. So I think that's how I would answer that question.
Awesome. And the 60-year anniversary is also coming up, correct?
It is. Mm-hmm. We're really excited. There was a team of us that was actually in the D.C. area for an Office of Head Start conference for the 50th reunion, or the 50th anniversary. And so we're excited about the opportunity to be able to celebrate Head Start. And it's crazy to think about 60 years of Head Start, and we've been doing this work for almost 30 of those, 25 of those years. So I think we've come a long way. Our challenges just keep every year. It's a different look in our classrooms, and that children and families present with. So we're constantly having to respond to what those needs are. So new training, whatever is the newest, the most up and coming research, best practices that we can implement within a classroom. Those are the things that we continue to focus on. That we don't have all of the answers, but there's a whole lot of people out there that can help us to continue to develop and grow and become more responsive to the needs.
Alrighty. So before we wrap up this episode, is there anything else that you would like to say or get off your chest?
I think that I would say that I'm just so proud. I'm proud of everybody that I work with. I'm proud of the agency. You never know what we're going to get ourselves into next, but we always know that we're going to end up doing amazing things. That it takes teamwork, and it sounds so cliche, but teamwork really does. Many hands make light work, and I'm so proud that we have all come together, and we have been such a successful team over the years. Tom and Jen are tremendous to work with, to work for, and they have a vision, and it's exciting to see what we can accomplish whenever we're all pulling together.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our episode 5 of LCCAP Legacy Decades of Dedication. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio today, Nancy. You did absolutely phenomenal. I know you were a little nervous.
You did great.
Thanks so much.
All right. So we're going to be back next week with a new episode and a new guest. So we'll see you guys next week.
See everybody next week.